So I'm just wondering, when does this become a situation where people need to be held accountable for aiding and abetting? Yeah, so the nonprofits, obviously these are your NGOs, your non-governmental organizations, are making billions off the border crisis. And one of those would be, let me just tell you a little bit about what this article says. Federal funding has turned the business of resettling migrant children into a gold mine for a handful of NGOs and their top executives. Although federally funded unaccompanied children program is responsible for resettling unaccompanied migrant minors who enter the U.S., it delegates much of the task to NGOs that run shelters in the border states of Texas, Arizona, and California. The Free Press examined three of the most prominent NGOs that have benefited: Global Refugee Southwest Key Programs, Endeavors, Inc. These organizations have seen their combined revenue grow from $597 million in 2019 to an astonishing $2 billion by 2022, the last year for which federal disclosure documents are available. And the CEOs of all three nonprofits reap more than $500,000 each annual compensation, with one of them, the chief executive of Southwest Key, making more than $1 million. Some of the service NGOs provide are eyebrow-raising. For example, Endeavors uses taxpayer funds to offer migrant children pet therapy and music therapy. In 2021 alone, Endeavors paid Christy Merrill, a music therapist, $533,000. An internal Endeavors PowerPoint obtained by America First Legal, an outfit founded by former Trump aide Stephen Miller, showed that the nonprofit conducted 1,656 people plant interactions and 287 pet therapy sessions between April 21st and March 2023. Endeavor's 2022 federal disclosure form also shows that it paid $5 million to a company to provide fill-in doctors and nurses, $4.6 million for consulting services, $1.4 million to attend conferences, and $700,000 on lobbyists. In 2021, the NGO shelled out $8 million to hotel management company Esperanto Developments to house migrants in their hotels. Endeavors, which gets 99.6% of its revenue from the government, according to federal disclosure forms, declined to comment. The Administration for Children and Families, a division of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, funds this through their refugee program, and claim it's an attempt to unite family members. But the ORR does not publicly list the specific number of shelters it funds in its efforts to house migrants. While some NGOs have long had operations at the border, what is new under Biden is the amount of taxpayer money being awarded, the lack of accountability for performance, and the lack of interest in solving the problem. Consider Global Refugee, based in Baltimore, Maryland. In 2018, according to its federal disclosure form, the Baltimore-based nonprofit had $50 million in revenue. By 2022, its revenue totaled $207 million, $180 million of which came from the government. That year, $82 million was spent on housing unaccompanied children. Federal awards, look at that in 2022. Despite these astronomical sums, the Unaccompanied Children program is fraught with problems and suffers from a general lack of oversight. What a surprise. Michelle Obama, when she was First Lady, took the top job of Global Refugee in February 2019 after she lost her bid to be elected governor of Maryland. She has since become one of the most prominent advocates for migrants crossing the southern border. appearing frequently on MSNBC and other media as an immigration advocate. Her salary was over $200,000 for that. In 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis impaneled a grand jury to conduct an investigation which showed how the ORR continually loosened its safety protocols so children could be connected to sponsors more quickly and with less due diligence. The same report revealed that because there's often no documentation to prove a migrant's age at the time Border Patrol processes them, 105 adults were discovered posing as unaccompanied children in 2021. One of them, a 24-year-old Honduran male, was said to be 17, was charged with murdering his sponsor in Jacksonville, Florida. And so this endeavor, you go on their website and it looks like they do things for vets and they do things for hurricane victims and all of this. And yet, you know, there's social workers, there's nurses, there's all these outreach programs, and this is one of the biggest problems. So I'm just wondering, you know, when does it become, like for the people in the nursing profession, and I don't mean the members because they likely are just, you know, thinking they're trying to help, but all the people at the top of the American Nurses Association, because it's tied to Global Nurses United, and that's tied to the International Nurse Council, and that goes to supporting open borders. I'm just wondering if these people will be charged for aiding and abetting. Because these people, I don't care what excuse, there's so many people that do this. Let me show you. This is somebody that's just foolish, either corrupt. I don't know. I don't want to rip on these people because maybe in some twisted part of their mind, they seem to think that open borders is humane. And that was John Washington I just showed, who wrote this book, The Case for Open Borders. And sadly, what's really lacking with these people is empathy, yet they use empathy and compassion to push for open borders, which is what the nursing profession has done. But a little clip, or little, you know, blip from his book. The reason I wanted to write this book is that by thinking hard about the etiology of this disease, which he sees he sees people that want controlled borders as the problem, that limits our empathy. No, these are the people this is why I said the left, these people, they don't have empathy. They like to use it, but there's nothing empathetic about open borders, and they want no nations. So they're just not, they lack common sense. But he goes on to say here, we may be able to inoculate ourselves from this wall sickness. It's really important to understand the history of it, how these borders were drawn, how they're enforced, what impact they have. And then following the disease metaphor, we can inoculate or vaccinate ourselves with solidarity, with mutual aid, with just opening our eyes and seeing that the humanity of people before us. No, there's nothing humane about this, not for Americans and not for the people that are being trafficked and being lured to come here. You know, and the nursing profession does this too. Registered Nurses Network, the RNRN, has released Compassion Without Borders. So they support all the same thing, and they use this idea that it's about that we would be a more humane world if we have no borders. That's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Look at what's happening in the country. We have been invaded, and these people like to say that that's somehow racist. No. The fact that our media and everybody is ignoring all the gang violence going on with this Venezuelan gang, and you know what? These Venezuelan gangs, they actually report back to the Venezuelan leader. So this is an absolute invasion. And so I'm just wondering, I'm not saying necessarily him, but these people like in my profession at the top that signed on to this, maybe just very misguided, but they have led to aiding and abetting criminals to come into our country. And there should be criminal charges for that, because this is unsustainable.